We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
Well, at least the Iranians are currently toppling their regime, so maybe they would give like good tips, you know. Because one of the things, like, I try to give tips for the Iranians, and then I realized that, surprisingly enough, Israelis don't have much experience with toppling regimes. But now I hope the Iranians would have some, and then they could give you, the New Yorkers, some tips when the time comes. Is there anyone in the crowd that doesn't see why this is the most dangerous sentence one can utter? I would have rather he stood there and shouted Allahu Akbar. Would have been less dangerous. Let me explain. So let's start. What is the warmth of collectivism versus the rigidity of individualism, right? So what makes something feel warm? Things feel warm when you feel like you are accepted, when you are understood, when you are embraced. So this is something that makes us feel warmth. Now, there are two ways to reach to a stage where you can do that. One way to do that is by the Jewish approach. What is the Jewish approach? Judaism and the Israeli culture is special, and this is something that is unique and is only found in Jewish culture. Be surprised. I mean, and cultures that learned from is the Jewish culture, but it's most prevalent in Jewish culture. The way they do it in general is by accepting failure and disagreement. So one way to do that, right, feeling accepted and understood, is to have a culture where you can speak up your mind, be in a minority opinion, have your own ideas, have your own thoughts, be different than anyone else, and everybody else would vehemently disagree with you, argue with you, say their opinions, you say your opinions. But instead of you thinking that would mean that they are not accepting or loving you, you would have the cultural background of disagreeing is a virtue, and being wrong is productive, because this is how you learn, right? So you will not be afraid to be wrong, and you will not be afraid to disagree. When you do that, when you disagree and you take the risk of being wrong, you still feel accepted and loved, because you are rewarded for standing on and voicing your opinion. And that is a way to feel accepted and embraced and get the warmth. Unfortunately, this is not the American culture today. The American culture struggles with accepting failure, with embracing failure, and right, because if like you failed, then it's problematic. And more, and this is what the Muslim Brotherhood did, and universities did, and Mamdani did, is his folks, because like they brought in a culture where disagreeing is unacceptable and being wrong is punished. So because of that, the way that you can get warmth and acceptance is by having no opinions. Because once you have an opinion, no matter how minute the opinion is, no matter how much of a niche of something it is, you take a risk. You might be wrong, because if you present an opinion, that is different, it means that you might be wrong, because most of the time it's an hypothesis. And it might be different. So you would not get accepted and you will not be understood. So you will not have the warmth. So when he says the warmth of collectivism, he says the warmth of collectivism that he is offering in a culture where being wrong or disagreeing is actively punished means only one thing. You are not allowed to have an opinion. That kind of culture means one thing. Only the leader, and only the leader, is allowed to have a thought. Everyone else must follow. Otherwise, you'd risk disagreeing or being wrong. So when he comes and says that to an American culture, when he touches a point, he touches a vulnerability. That is true. Right now, in American culture, failure or disagreement is met with punishment. Demonstrating a culture that is different is met with punishment. Not acceptance, not understanding. So he touched upon something that people can, yes, resonate with, right? Oh, yes, I remember. I expressed my opinion and I was punished for it, or worse, I was wrong. So wouldn't it be better for me to embrace collectivism and allow Mamdani to tell me what to think? When you give away your agency, your ability to express yourself, to think, I need to say the obvious, all right? Instead of having a lot of different computers running different, equations, different things that could be discovered, suddenly there is only one working computer. So science cannot exist, could not. No matter how much of a genius Mamdani is, he only has a certain amount of RAM and computation power. So you lose the ability to do science because there is only one computer running, and not a strong one, that is.